Hello everyone, how are we all doing today? It's glad to be back up on your screens. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Of course, as you know, my name is Promise Uche Onwachku, and I'm a Microsoft MVP for AI Foundry and Azure, or you could say Microsoft Foundry and Azure category. And today, of course, as you know, we have been hosting a series of topics on Azure Verified Modules, and we'll be taking a look at a similar topic. But of course, as you know, I don't do this alone. I do this with also a couple of MVPs, and with me today is Iheana Chochukwu. He is also an MVP, but maybe I'll bring him up stage and he introduces himself quickly. Hello, Iheana, how are you doing today?
Hello, everyone. I'm Ihana Cho, Azure MVP in AIIAC. Glad to have Promise back to join us in the series with Azure Verified Modules. Hope we're going to learn and have fun on the way. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much for that, Iheanacho. As you all know, in case you're wondering what channels are we meeting on, you can also see the messages we are scrolling right at the bottom of this page, right? So ensure to follow our social media platforms, such as our LinkedIn, which is the Azure infrastructure DevOps support community, right? So Azure infrastructure DevOps support community, separated with dash. And also our YouTube channel is Azure Infra DevOps Support com, right? Separated with dash. And our meetup page is Azure Infrastructure and DevOps Support Community. So endeavor to follow our social media pages, and then of course we will comment with the main topic for today, which is on Azure Verified Modules, right? But of course, I'll share my screen and then we can proceed from there. So today we are looking at deploying a secure virtual network foundation with Azure Verified Modules. As you know, the base of your infrastructure, right? The base or the foundation of anything you're building in cloud relies on your networking configuration, right? So the first things first, what you would like to do is to ensure that you have a standard virtual network configuration built, using the most appropriate formats, and also resources that can help you monitor what is really happening in your virtual network setup. All right. Of course, as you know, I also have sessions like this with Ihian Achochiku and Chidebere Ugu. But Chidebere Ugu, who is also an MVP, is not able to join us on the session for today. So it's going to be me and Ihian Cho handling this wonderful session on how to deploy your secure virtual network foundation with Azure Verified Models. All right. Now, we've really talked about this, right? But generally, if you want to go from zero to production ready secure VNet foundation, then the one of the best ways to go about it is making use of Azure Verified Modules and Terraform, right? Right? With Azure Verified Modules, you are able to understand, how the modules are configured, right? Also, you also have what would I call it? Real Terraform code that has been verified, has been tested to perform what it actually meant to perform, right? And of course, your code is being deployed in a production pattern, meaning that everything which your code should come with, right, is embedded right in here, right? So that is one beautiful thing with making use of Azure Verified Modules. All right, we'll move on to the next slide. What's the problem for today and what is the solution? Right? The problem, as we know, is that we want to build a virtual network as the base or the foundation of our infrastructure. And for us to do that, we want to make use of what? The Azure Verified Modules, right? For us to do that, we want to make use of the Azure Verified Modules. Now, you can see here, it says raw Terraform gets teams started fast, but at scale, inconsistency becomes a liability, right? So you want to ensure when building that you are using a consistent pattern in developing or building your infrastructure, right? This gives your foundation a good base for building whatever you want to deploy on your cloud environment, right? Now, without using Azure Verified Modules, of course, there are pain points which you may likely observe. One is you get to write your VNet modules differently. Now, and these things we are seeing are things we've seen happen in real-time environments, right? We've actually seen these issues pop up, right? Because there's no consistent model used across the teams or the various teams in an organization, right? You also observe that security rules are inconsistent, logging gets forgotten, right? And there's no versioning. No versioning, which definitely equals to drift from best practices. And the reason why this is happening is because there's no agreed format that a whole team or a set of teams has decided to use. So it's very, very, very important that you make use of an agreed format. Could be AVM, any of the modules, but a sample module like AVM is a production ready tested module, which you can always make use of. One of the benefits you get, or some of the benefits you get from using the Azure Verified Modules is that one, the modules are already pre-validated with WAF, WAF, right? Aligned default and pinned versions, right? So they are already pre-validated. You don't have to deal with pre-validations and all of those issues, right? Now, same quality bar whenever you use both Bicep or Terraform. You get the same quality whenever you're using either Bicep or Terraform. And of course, there's a shift in the question: which module do you use? Right now, because of the fact that you're making use of Azure Verified Modules, you don't need to be dealing with that question, right? You don't need to be dealing with that question because, of course, you're making use of Azure Verified Modules, right? So some of the things that will come with our deployment would be, or in terms of building the VNets, some of the concerns that people would really have is there anything guarding or protecting your subnets in terms of energy, network security groups? What diagnostics do you have to see what's happening within the subnets, right? And can this be reproduced, right? So these are the concerns that come when building a VNet. Now, without AVM, of course, your energy, well, we only hope that is correct. We only hope. Your diagnostics can sometimes be enabled, sometimes not. And then, of course, for reproducibility, that will depend on what drift. Whereas with Azure Verified Modules, your energy config follows a schema that is enforced by the module, right? The diagnostics by default, they are wired in by default, right? And of course, reproducibility is also version pinned with Azure Verified Modules, right? So these are some of the benefits you get when using Azure Verified Modules. Now, in this particular setup, before we dive into the practical session, which our MVP Ihe will be helping us with, we will just want to look at a simple project structure for this project setup, right? And you can see, as you can see here, we have three AVM modules, one clean folder layout, and every file has a single what repository, right? Now you can see the folder structure of what the VNet foundation would look like, and of course the AVM modules used in this folder structure. So you can see that we are making use of the virtual network module, the network security group module, and the log analytics workspace module, right? So those are the three modules we are actually making use of when building this VNet foundation. All right, I think, and of course, for those of you that don't know where to get your Azure Verified modules, here's a link to check it out: registry.terraform.io/namespaces Azure. This is where you can get your Azure Verified modules. All right, I think at this point in time, I'll give it up to Ihe and Cho, able MVP in AKS and Azure, to proceed from here. Hello, Nacho.
Hello,
Uh,
Promise. Thank you for that walkthrough. Also explaining the project structure layouts, which is the basics of where I'll just try to kick on and just proceed with the Hello World demo. Really, is intentionally left simple and straightforward to help our audience grasp the concept of using AVMs. So, if you don't mind, I'll just take over your screen now and
yes.
just continue.
Yes. You can actually share if you want to share as well.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So,
mhm.
I'm going to be sharing now in a
All
minute.
right. Okay.
Yeah, do you see my screen?
Yes, I'm adding it now. So good. Your screen displays now on the page.
Yeah. Awesome. So we have our structure layouts already from the main.tf. Okay. We actually showing our calling modules. This is what we are deploying right here, and from here we have other files. We think in files in Terraform, right? So we have the main.tf files, which is exactly what we are deploying. All right. So here we have the resource group, which we intend to deploy all of these resources into. We have three modules we're going to be using, AVM modules. Like Promise mentioned, these are standard modules that helps us just we use it and we know all the standard configurations are already being passed in, and we just have to kind of reuse the template that already exists. All right. So we'll be calling the log analytics module, AVM module, um, with the keyword module. We put the name of the module like we have in Terraform. Then the source is where we point to the Terraform mode registry for AVM for log analytics, right? So we'll point to it. This is exactly the URL. We point to that. We also determine the AVM version we want to use, which what we have here is 0.4.0. We call in the name of the module that has already been expected by the AVM module, right? We also pass in our resource group, which will be from the earlier called resource group. So kind of keeping it very simple, we pass in what we need. What I have here is a minimum of what we need, right? And of course, we have the output, which kind of shows a high level of all we want to print out. Okay, from our deploy module, this should just be our display, or all the variables that we need from this deployment. All right. Of course, we have other modules here. We have the network security group. Okay, which is also a Terraform AVM module. Like we explained, we call the version and the remaining options we require. All right. Then also we pass in the security rules we want. For the NSG, we describe exactly what we want here, like we have done with Terraform or from the portal. We enter each value one after the other, and we have clearly defined what we wanted, right? Similarly, so from here we have one security rule. We have another one here, making it a total of two. And if you look at the options, it tells you more about the security rules. All right, the priority here is 90. It's an inbound rule. It allows uh, traffic to flow in from any protocol and within also any source port range. Just putting all of this configuration really. Then of course we have the network AVM module, just like you will call a typical Terraform module, say from your Terraform registry or from your locals module, right? So same similar stuff. Source will give you the source of the AVM module, which we'll put in here, and we will as well have the values that is required to apply to these modules, right? And also to try give us what exactly we want, the naming styling for our organizations, the the structuring of our network and components. All right, we put all of that into that. And like Promise mentioned, diagnostics configuration, just passing that flag and passing the values of that variable or the flags from AVM will simply allow us to toggle in on or off any feature we want to deploy with. All right. So the diagnostic settings, we are passing the values. Once we pass that flag, that settings will be activated. Then we'll pass in a name for it and the workspace to log the diagnostics into, right? So this one would actually be the ID of the previously created log analytics workspace, right? So this is what we are doing here. Very clean and straightforward with passing our tags, and we have our main.tf declaration all cleanly written. And of course, our inputs, as we all know from our previous session, is being defined from the variable.tf. All right. We have the location, which will actually show the Azure region. We have other values that are declared in the template, all passed in as inputs from the variables. And this will also be a prefix of var from the main.tf, which we'll see here in all of these values, right? The terraform.tf vals is actually the value of the variables or the input variables, right? So value we're going to be using in the templates, okay, will be pushed in from this terraform.tf vals file. So this defines the value of all the variables. All right. Then our provider block is just basically telling us the required Terraform value version for this deployment, and also having all required providers. All right. And here we're just having HashiCorp uh, Azure RM provider and Azure RM provider. So this is what we need to get our code running. So without wasting much time, we'll try to initialize this and deploy this. So our first command would be go to the Terraform config directory and do a AZ login, which I've already done previously to make sure that we are logging into our Azure portal. That would be an AZ login. All right. Enter this and interact with your portal and signing into your Azure environment. All right. Once signed into the Azure environment, when you do AZ account show, you should be able to see the signed in Azure environment, right? Then, of course, you want to probably do a Terraform in it. This will help to install all the providers you may have, and all the modules will get downloaded and installed. All right. So the Terraform init will do that functionality for you. Also, it will initialize this to its backend. And for this demo, we're actually using a local backend. All right. Probably in a production environment, we probably want to store this, say, in a Azure storage container, right? So for now, we are keeping this as local. Having done Terraform init, next command to execute here would be a Terraform plan. And this Terraform plan would show us the plan infrastructure, including any changes in our deployments. So it's checking all what we have defined in main.tf and going through it one after the other. And since that has all gone through fine, we should be able to see the results of all of the plan changes. Will let us know if there will be any changes in terms of will any resource be deleted, will any resource be updated, and we get a plan executive summary of our changes or of our deployments. So because I've deployed those before, it just says no changes, which further explains that this has actually gone all fine. And also, if you go through the resources about to be deployed, you'll see it calls each modules and try to iterate through them based on the flags that have been enabled. So we know the resource is going to deploy. All right. So this is all fine. The next command will be a Terraform apply. All right. So there are no changes. We don't expect it to actually make any deployment there. But since it's idempotency, all right, once there is no change identifier, it's going to deploy without any change. All right. We already talked about that in our first session on AVM. So as one of the good spots with Terraform as well. All right. So we're having all organized best practice codes, calling all of that from Azure Verified Modules. Okay. So these has all gone in fine, deployed without any changes, clean deployment, standard templating. That's what we get from Azure AVM. Okay. This has actually shown that we are able to deploy a simple Hello World network foundation that using three AVMs modules, the log analytics, the Azure security group, and the Azure virtual network module. Yeah, so we have come to the end of our demo. Uh, I don't know if there are any questions. We did love to look at the chat and see if there's anyone following with any question.
I was
Uh,
thinking maybe you show them the resource deployed in Azure.
yeah. That would be fine. Quickly do that. Um, so, I have to share the other screen. Sorry. Stop and share again. Yeah. So I'm sharing my second screen now. So what did we call this again? Check the Terraform TF value. So we have the network group as this. So let's search and see what's there. Can you all see my screen? Promise, can you see the Azure portal?
Yes, I can see your screen. Yes, I can see.
Yeah. So looking at the Azure portal, we have three we have the resource group, of course, and we can see here the three resource being deployed by three AVM modules. So we see the log analytics workspace, all right, and we see the NSG. So we just go through the resource and see what we might find, compare with what we have defined, and see if there's any, if it's exactly the same thing. So the name of the name is definitely Law Network Dev, which what we have here, and we also have it's been deployed to the resource group RG Network Dev UKS. Okay, this is it here. All right, so we also have the NSG here, which we would expect to have those two security rules for inbound and outbound. So we have go to the code again and see what we have. So we have, yeah, we have two inbound rules. So one is allow VNet inbound for priority is 900. Let's see that. Yeah, does it. So allow network inbound. Of course, this is what we defined. And why the second one is a deny rule. Okay. Full check again should confirm that deny rule. So priority is 1000. Yeah, so that's it. So the last resource there is the VNet. Okay, if we look at the subnets, we have two subnets declared. If we go back, subnet for managing our workload, um, say within the application, and subnet for general subnet management, which we clearly defined here. So we can still just similar. This is what we have here, clearly showing our resource being deployed. Yeah, so this is the beauty of AVM. We have all of the best practices being passed in, carefully being passed in. We have one standard being shared across our organization. I mean, we have something very good to start with as a base, which we can as well go ahead and make some other changes to them. All right, so yeah, so this will be the end of our simple hello world deployment. Promise, do you mind point out, say, any observation or any clarification further on this?
I would say from my end, for instance, I feel like during this session we didn't actually get to show them the verified modules themselves. So maybe they can have a look on what the verified modules are all about. So here's a link itself to the verified modules. And in here, you can see this is the Azure Verified Network module itself. And aside the Azure Verified Network modules, you see that there are other resources that can be built from this Azure Verified modules, right? So if you come here, you can see AVM, which is Azure Verified Modules, and then you can see this is the one for virtual network. And of course, if you want to see the code block or the source code itself, right, you can always click on the link here, which will then bring you to the Azure Verified module itself. So you can see on the module, you see the README. The README explains everything in detail, the benefits you get, the prerequisites, how to make use of it, right? How do you make use of it, right? So it actually shows you this, right? It actually shows you this. So these are various ways. It also points to the requirements, resources you can build with this, and various other things that you need while making use of the verified model. So here is just a sample of it. I can as well share this link here in the chat session, because this is like a sample of what we have done today. So, I mean, if you go to the session for today, you would see this link on the chat screen. So, don't hesitate to go through, get an understanding on what it's like to make use of this Azure Verified Modules to build something that you would really love. Right. So I think with this, I think we've actually explained in detailed what's like to build a VNet, right? Making use of the Azure Verified Modules. Of course, any questions you have, don't hesitate to reach out to us over our social media handles. We are present on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Meetup, and any of these platforms are always available for you to reach out to us. If for any reason you haven't subscribed to our pages, I would love you to go ahead and do so. Follow us, And of course, this is going to be a series, right? This is going to be a series. We have other series that will be following the how to work with the Azure Verified Modules. We'll be providing you with various examples, and we'll move forward from there. So I guess at this point in time, I'd like to say thank you all. Thank you all. But before I go, Nacho, any last words? Do you have any last words for this particular session?
Uh, Yeah, I mean, just before you show that, I was actually wanted to as well just point them to point the audience to the different modules that we actually saw, was because the GitHub repository actually shows you a lot of those default examples you can pick out from and work something on. Okay, but I think you actually did a good job showing that. Did is there anyone I could as well show? Just 1 second. See.
Okay.
Um.
Okay.
Um. Yep. Okay. So from this GitHub repository, I mean, Promise have already showed the that for the virtual network. Okay. You can as well come here and look at the default. I like looking at this default example because it kind of gives you the very basic, the very hello world. You can come here and play around with it. All right. And for every of the module, you have a repo. On that one for security group is this just from the code we have also already shown. You can as well go ahead and explore this, like play with around with this. The whole idea is to give you that interest where you kind of love to go ahead to explore things. I think that's the whole idea to help us get familiar with AVM. Also, we have the very last one we used, which is the workspace analytics, right? So all these are interesting modules. If you're familiar with Terraform, you won't really have any issues using them. So feel free to explore, use, and I mean play around with it. We also have the
Azure Verified Modules documentation page, that can also gives you different more ideas to play around with labs and things like that. So yeah, that will be everything from my side. It's a series. We'll come back to this again on Thursday to look at another example for AKS, and I wish everyone could as well be part of that. This interesting short session, educative, and I really want to appreciate Promise for jumping straight on this, coming all the way from the MVP summit in the USA back to Netherlands, and straight on the next day is here. What a love for the technology.
Yes,
I used to,
yes,
I used
yes.
to refer to you as an evangelist, spread the gospel of Azure. Thank you for coming. Thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
despite the stressful journey.
Thank you so much, Ian Achechuku. And just like he has said, don't hesitate to take some time, go through the examples, learn it for yourself, right? And if you haven't followed our social media channels, don't hesitate to do so. I think at this point in time, it's a good one to say goodbye and see you all in our next session. Bye bye, all.
Bye.